Good evening, everyone. Tonight we're going to continue working on solving equations. Specifically, we're going to work on how we solve an equation by multiplying or dividing the coefficient away, so we're left with just the answer x equals. I'd like you to focus your attention on how we get rid of fractions, how we simplify them, and following the steps of simplify, isolate, and divide. So let's get started. Remember to pause if you think you know how to solve the problem. Check your answer, and above all, make sure you're doing the check step. So here we have a problem, 2x plus 8 equals 14. So, simplify. Do I have any parentheses? Do I have any terms which need to be combined? And the answer to both those questions is no, and so I'm done. Next step, isolate. Is my variable on its own? Well, no, it has an 8, and so we're going to use the additive inverse. I have a positive 8, so I add a negative 8, and so I now have 2x equals 6. Isolate. And the last step is divide. We are going to divide the coefficient to get rid of the coefficient until it turns into a 1. Well, how do I turn a 2 into 1? Well, 2 divided by 2 will give me x. 2 divided by 2 equals 1x, except we don't need to write the 1. That's inferred. What I do on the left side, I must do on the right side. 6 divided by 2 equals 3. And remember, now I need to do my check step. 2 times 3 plus 8 equals 14. 6 plus 8, 14 equals 14. Great. So that was a nice, easy, straightforward one. Let's move on here and see if we can find something a little more complicated. All right. So here, it's simplified. Remember, I want to keep saying that, though. I want to make sure I've got that in my head. Parentheses, like terms, check. Isolate. Is my variable on its own? Well, no. It has a 6 with it. How do I get rid of the 6? Well, it's a positive 6. And so I'm going to additive inverse, subtract 6, and I'm going to subtract 6. Well, this goes away. What is left? Do not forget the negative. 5p equals 26 minus 6 is 20. Is my variable isolated? Yes. And my last step, divide. Okay. Well, I want to make my answer a positive p. Well, what do I have to divide negative 5 by in order to make myself have a positive p? Well, anything divided by itself will give me 1. This is, the coefficient is negative 5. So negative 5 divided by negative 5 is a positive p. 20 divided by negative 5 is a negative 4. Positive divided by a negative is a negative. This is where it's important with your check step to put your answer in parentheses. Negative 5 times negative 4 is positive 20. 6 plus 26, and we check. Okay? So, if my coefficient is negative, then I divide by negative. Next example. Alright, now things are really getting busy. Alright, simplify. Do I have any parentheses? Do I need to combine like terms? No. Isolate. Is my variable on its own? No. Okay, I have a negative 3/5. The additive inverse says to add 3/5. Okay, and if I do that over there, I'm going to do that over here. Well, now I'm going to have to do some work on the side to make this addable. So, common denominator, 10, 5/10 plus 6/10 equals 11/10. So now I have 5/8 x equals 11/10. How do I turn 5/8 into 1? Well, before we were just dividing by the coefficient. Well, okay, so I'm going to divide by 5/8. Okay, dividing a number by a fraction is same as taking the number and doing what? Multiplying it by its inverse. So its inverse is 8/5. Does that give me 1? Absolutely. And if I do it on one side, I have to do it on the other side. Okay? And unfortunately, we get a nasty fraction of 88/50. Okay? We do the check step. And I don't have room for that. But I tell you what, why don't you pause at this moment and see if I did it correctly. Remember, I want to see notes, so tomorrow I'm going to be checking to see if you did the check step for this and to make sure if I did the correct math. All right, and the last question I want to take a look at is another fraction. This time my variable's on the right-hand side. Is that an issue? Well, I don't remember anything in my checklist saying that it had to be on the left-hand side. So is it simplified? Yes, no distributive property, no combining like terms. Isolate. I have my variable with a -15. So I'm going to add the opposite. I'm going to add the opposite. -12 plus 15 is 3 equals, whoops, 310x. Why don't you pause right here and see if you can solve this. So the multiplicative inverse here, we're going to divide by 3/10 or multiply by its reciprocal. Multiply by its reciprocal. This will cross simplify. So we have 10 equals x. And it's okay if you want to write x equals 10. Okay. So again, I'm going to leave you to do your check step. Make sure I did the math correctly. And we've done the division. So you can see that whether or not if my coefficient is a whole number, an integer, we just divide. If it turns into a fraction, we still divide. Or you can look at it as multiplying by its reciprocal. So regardless of what it is, if this was a over b, we would multiply by b over a. 6/5, we multiply by 5/6. I hope that made a lot of sense. You have a post-quiz. Your post-quiz will be post-quiz, we'll make it post-quiz number 9. And be prepared to come in tomorrow. Remember, you have your IXL assignment also due tonight, plus the odds from the textbook. We will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.